I'm going to give you 6 ways to increase the value of your injury settlement if someone else's carelessness caused your injury. I'm injury attorney Justin Ziegler. The first way to increase the full settlement value of your case is to get medical treatment. There's the saying goes, damages drive the value of your case. The more medical treatment you have, the higher medical bills you have, the more pain and suffering the adjuster and/or jury believes you've had, which increases the total damages. So without medical treatment, the value of a case is generally very small. With medical treatment, you at least have a fighting chance in getting more money for your case. If the insurance company doesn't see your medical treatment in writing in a doctor's records, they assume you're not in pain and your injury is not bad. The same thing with the jury. If they don't see your medical records and bills, they assume your pain was not bad, and thus, generally speaking, your award is less. Here's an example of how getting medical treatment can increase the full value of your case. This is a truck from a $445,000 settlement that I had where a truck driver failed to yield the right of way and hit my client who was on a motorcycle. Now, my client had a tibial plateau fracture, which is a fracture of the top of the lower leg right beneath the knee. He had a rod put in there, and he also fractured his finger. But now, the majority of his value of his claim had already happened by the time he left the hospital. He had surgery at the hospital, so that was the bulk of his claim. However, he attended all of his medical visits, and he ended up getting more medical treatment, including he had the rod in his finger. He also had a little rod in his finger. He got that removed. Now, had he not gone through with that removal surgery, and had he just not received any medical treatment after leaving the hospital, the value of his case would have been lower. So the fact that he got all of this medical treatment helped us get $445,000 to settle the case, whereas if he did not get all of this medical treatment, the settlement would have been significantly lower. Now, I already talked about it, but getting surgery increases the full value of the case. And really quickly, full value just means the total value of all your damages, out-of-pocket medical bills, out-of-pocket lost wages, pain and suffering, prior to discounting your case for things like your fault, inability to prove that your injuries were caused by the accident. And there's no guarantee in any case that you're going to get money at all, but this entire video assumes that your case has value. Now, surgery increases the full value of the case. If you take a look at all of my top settlements, and if you just look on the internet of people's larger settlements, you're going to notice that almost every single large settlement has surgery involved, meaning the person who was injured by someone else who was at fault has had surgery. That increases the value of the case. The second way to increase the full value of your case is to treat with a doctor who's claimant friendly. Now, in the $445,000 settlement example that I talked about, my client had a leg operation at the hospital, and the leg operation that he had was done by a doctor who I had a conference with after he was released from the hospital. And that doctor, when I asked him if my client's leg injury was permanent, he laughed and said, no. So after that, I told my client to see another doctor who I thought would give more favorable testimony because he was more of what I call a claimant-friendly doctor, someone who really cares about helping the injured victim. This doctor said the injury was permanent, and in addition, he said my client would need a future knee replacement, which increased the value of the case, and also found a shoulder pain complaint that my client had, said that he had a tear, whereas the first doctor had no mention of that. The third way to increase the full value of your case is to be sure that you request every single medical bill record in your case. Do not expect the insurance company or adjuster to tell you that you need to get certain medical bills or records. Now, keep in mind, when you go to the hospital, if you go there, they're going to have a hospital bill, a doctor's bill, a radiologist bill, an emergency physician's bill, which is the same as the doctor's bill, a pathology bill if they take your blood work, etc. Also, if you have any scarring, take photos of your scarring and send it to the adjuster. Do not expect the adjuster to tell you, sir, I need pictures of your scarring. They may not do that. Now, after you request all these medical bills, records, and this other documentation, including your lost wage information from your employer, give it to the insurance adjuster. Don't expect him to tell you to give it to him. You need to document your case, because what happens is you're going to end up sending all this information to the adjuster. They're going to put it into their computer. They're then going to evaluate the value of your case. They're going to give it to their supervisor and request a certain amount of settlement authority, and the supervisor is going to want to see the documentation. You telling the insurance company that you went to the hospital, that you have knee pain, that you're going to need a second surgery means nothing, generally, unless they have the documentation in black or white or pictures. Also, if you happen to have any x-rays, CT scans, or MRIs, not only send the insurance company the actual report that talks about what you have, you're going to want to send them the actual films. And if possible, draw an arrow or highlight the area where you have a problem. So if you have a herniated disc, you're going to want to highlight that or draw an arrow to it. If you have a fracture, draw an arrow or highlight the fracture on the actual film or CD picture, and you're going to send it to the insurance company. It's going to make it easier for them, and when they see something visual, it helps them understand your injury. The fourth way to increase the full value of your case is to make a high settlement demand. Now, if you have a bad case, you have a bad case, and making a high settlement demand is not going to do much for you. But if you have a good case, like the case that I settled for $445,000, we made a settlement demand of $1 million. Now, when I asked the insurance adjuster, I said, what do you think the claim is worth? He said $100,000. Now, had I made a low settlement demand, and let's say I demanded $125,000 or $175,000 or $200,000, I would have been capped at that amount, and the settlement would have been much smaller. But I asked for $1 million, and I stuck at that amount for a while, and we eventually met close to the middle at $445,000. So making a high settlement demand can help you. Also, sometimes you may not want to make a demand until you're finished with all your medical treatment, because it's easier for an insurance company to pay you for past medical bills than it is for something that may happen in the future or may not happen in the future. The fifth way to increase the full value of your case is to research and send the adjuster past jury verdicts that attorneys have had in similar cases. Now, you generally need to subscribe to a service like Westlaw or LexisNexis, which costs about $40 or so a month. You're going to want to look for high jury verdicts with the same problem that you had. So, for example, if you have a broken knee, you're going to want to look up high jury verdicts where a lot of money was awarded for the pain and suffering component of your broken knee. You're not going to want to send the insurance adjuster the low verdicts. They can get those on their own. Now, this helps because one of the things insurance companies look at when deciding how much to pay you is past settlements, which you're really not going to have access to, or past jury verdicts, which if you subscribe, you may have access to. You're going to want to get those, send them to the adjuster. It can make the adjuster's job easier and easier for them to justify paying you more money if they see that for themselves. They know that you're serious. They know you know what you're doing. And when they show that jury verdict to their supervisor, it may be easier for them to get more money, thus resulting in a higher settlement. The sixth way to increase the value of your case is to negotiate down your hospital bills and other health insurance bills and liens. Now, what happens is you'll treat at the hospital like the case that I settled for $445,000. My client didn't have insurance, so the hospital on its own knocked the bill off the bat to $25,000. But then I was able to negotiate that $25,000 down to $13,500. While this doesn't increase the full settlement value of your case, it increases the amount that you're going to actually get in your pocket. Also, if your health insurance or Medicare or Medicaid or any other first-party insurer pays bills related to the accident, you may have a very strong right in the ability to get the amount that they paid reduced down. They're going to make a claim from the total settlement saying, I want to get paid back X amount. Your job is to get that amount to as low as possible. Now, depending on who it is, Medicare, Medicaid, health insurance, the laws are different, but understand in certain situations, if you have an attorney, they have to reduce by your attorney's fees and cost right off the bat. You may also have additional leverage as well, but understand that we've been able to reduce some of these health insurance liens huge, which ultimately put more money in my client's pocket. Please watch our other videos. I'm Justin Ziegler. I'm an injury attorney with my office in Miami, serving Florida.